Welcome, everybody, on this beautiful spring day. I'm telling you, it is like sterling here, and I'm sure where all of you are, too. So I want to thank you for taking the time to come. And if we could, I'd like to just have a quick roll call for this meeting, and I'm going to do that for all of our meetings, just so we all know who is in attendance. And just a quick reminder about attendance. I believe we have, as a commission member, 4 meetings that we are allowed to miss. And because I don't take roll call, I'm not really paying attention to that. But, we're so grateful for all of your times. But I just thought from here on we'll just call, everyone's name just as a course of meeting courtesy. So Laura Inserto.
George
Linda
Markley.
Lorenzo.
Mary Ellen
Carolyn Durgee.
Suzanne Testani.
Loretta J.
Excellent. And, of course, Julie DeMarco and Sheila Tessie. Thank you both. And could we just do a quick Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the
Flag of the United States of America.
And to
the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under
God,
indivisible, with liberty
and justice
for all.
Excellent. Thank you. And at today's meeting, we have the pleasure of our social services staff. Julie's invited them all, the ones that were able to attend, to speak to us, introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about what they do, and they're going to review a case study for us so we get an idea of what their day is on a day-to-day basis, which I'm sure is never the same twice. And it will be interesting to hear what this incredible support to the town brings to human services. So I welcome you all. If you could just tell us your name and a little bit about yourself, which I'm sure Julie has already asked you to do, that would be helpful for us. So
great. So if you don't mind, Laura, I'll kick it off, and then we'll see who's on and let them talk about a typical case or a typical day.
Great.
Perfect. So I know all of you commissioners are dedicated to the work of the entire department, and it just feels like we often highlight or focus more on the senior center. And I didn't want to leave behind social services because we have 6 wonderful social workers and a social services secretary, and they work so hard to serve the entire town of Fairfield. We're technically ages 18 and up, but there are families with young children, so it's pretty much all age groups. And if I hesitate or don't include them in every meeting, I just want to be sure that all of you have a good and solid idea of what kind of work they're doing and how wonderful they are. So I'm going to do a quick overview of some of the things that social services does. And keep in mind, everybody is part-time, so it's miraculous what they can accomplish. So we work with town departments. We do lots and lots of referrals for services and assessments. Every person who comes through social services door or phone call to speak with a social worker, other than a quick call for a reference, for a referral to like a home care agency or to a mental health provider or something like that. When a client is working with us and is coming to us in crisis, they will call and speak to a social worker. And what that social worker will do is an intake, an assessment of what their needs are, what they may be eligible for, and how we can help them through an emergency. What we're trying to do is get them on solid ground to whatever is next, whatever resources or whatever stability, or how we can help get them there. We don't have a lot of money. Our budget. We don't have a lot of money to help them with, and it's not a good practice to be part of anybody's emergency budgeting, but we can help them get over those humps. So that's done by occasional gift cards. It's done by a mobile food pantry that one of the social workers coordinates with Operation Hope. It's done through energy assistance. It's done through emergency financial assistance. And we do a lot of referrals to outside resources for rental and mortgage assistance or for utility assistance. We also work very closely with the health department, police and fire. When they go on a call and they have a concern about a resident, they'll send a report to us, and one of the social workers will follow up with that case. Something that I'm very proud of that this department has done is started to really get police and fire and health on board to help us make referrals to DCF or to protective services. DCF is a little easier because it's ingrained. If there's a child in jeopardy, it's ingrained to call DCF. But with seniors, it's a great thing for them to call directly to protective services for the elderly so that they can tell what they saw when they had eyes on a call. And the social workers have done a wonderful job in working with police and fire to get them more comfortable making those calls. We also handle Dial-A-Ride thanks Janet, for our grant with GBT for paratransit, so helping get rides for doctors and things like that. Instead of giving you the whole list of things we do and how amazing these social workers are, I thought it would be more interesting to hear from those who are on what a case is like, what a typical, there's no typical case, but what an example of a case and what kind of services and resources we provide to them. So any questions before I start throwing questions at the social workers? Any questions so far?
It's Laura. I just have one because I don't have an understanding. Are the social workers town employees under Human Services, or are they town employees under the Selectmen's office?
Human Services. So
okay.
this department, that's Social Services, the Senior Center, and Senior Transportation. So it's all one umbrella.
Okay, got it.
Senior and Disabled Transportation, I should say.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay, so for social workers, could you guys just tell me who's on?
Amy.
Oh, great.
Allison is here.
Great. Okay, so
Eileen
Amy, do you want
to? Oh, sorry.
Oh, hi, Eileen. No, you're good.
Hi.
Amy, do you want to kick us off with an example of
Sure.
a family?
Hi, everybody.
This is Amy Luciano, one of our social workers.
Hi. Hi. I came up with a case that came to us through the health department. It's a family of 5, 4 generations, all in one home. And the health department had been called with concerns of hoarding in the home. Shortly before the pandemic, Amy from the health department and I went out to the home. And Amy, in these circumstances, would be checking specifically that exits are not blocked and that there's a clear path to the exits despite clutter. Social services is brought in to assess what other services may be of help in the situation, anything from helping a client obtain a dumpster to finding out what resources and agencies can help. Social services has offered support through gift cards, energy assistance, a little bit of what Julie was just saying, as well as working with an out-of-town relative who's very involved in the family's welfare. Additionally, concern for the children and an elderly residents can lead to a call for a police wellness check from anyone who's concerned. And once those assessments are made in a lot of cases, including this one, again, as Julie mentioned, the police department may contact the Department of Child Protective Services or Protective Services for the Elderly and give firsthand accounts of the concerns for the residents. And then they'll reach out to social services with a referral, a written referral, so that we can follow up with the case, So that's one case.
Nice.
Yeah, so what's so important with this one is collaboration with all these other town departments, because we can't possibly know all of the nuances of what goes on in the home, and clients don't have to open the door or answer to us, but they do to police or fire.
And who typically would make that call to social services about this problem?
Anybody.
Hmm.
So the initial call was the health department, so anybody can make that call.
So like a neighbor
Julie, is
would
that
call
correct?
the health
That's my
department?
I'm sorry?
So like a neighbor or, a friend might see the problem and call the health department?
Yeah. What's tricky is that if a neighbor calls us and says, a lady down the street is a hoarder, she needs your help, we can't operate on hearsay. So we can try, we can recommend that they call police or fire for a well check, or that they could call the health department directly. Once we get contacted by like a family member, we will definitely jump in. But police or fire and the health department, we can work very closely with them to get in there. But it's hard, because you never know what's a neighbor dispute, and you don't know. Hoarding's a tough one, as Amy said. If we look for with our help with the health department and understanding what's okay for a hoarder is a clear path. Can people get in and out of the house? Is there a path to the bathroom? Is there a path to the kitchen? Hoarding's not necessarily a reason to be removed from a home if there's still livable space. So it's tricky, and people do judge their neighbors. So we look for if it's somebody we know, we may give a call and say, "How you doing?" But if it's an official report from police or fire, that's a better way for us to go in.
Thank you.
Amy, this is George. I'm just curious, when you get these phone calls, be it from a family member, police or fire, and you approach the family, what type of response do you usually get? Is it more often than not negative, or do they welcome the intervention, or is it just a mixed bag?
People don't answer the phone or don't answer the door most often, but we have gotten very kind people who let us in, which I so appreciate. And each time it's been with Amy, I've probably had a handful, and usually people just don't come to the door. And we don't get the call typically. All the calls I've been on have been requests through the health department to have a social worker alongside the health department employee.
And it's Suzanne Testani. Do you approach that household by yourselves, or are you accompanied by a police officer? I mean, how do you know it's safe going to those homes as well? Be it no fault of the person that you're approaching, but what's the safety piece of it that you have in place?
By ourselves, but we stand back. I was really taking Amy's lead because she had done this before. This was new to me a year and a half ago, but she had done this before. So, you stand back and just keep it friendly. I'm thinking about the specifically one of the ones where a father and a son let us in, and it's not a household you or I might live in, but everything was clear, and they were very kind, and things were clean too. That's probably the most difficult, is when things are clearly unclean. But as long as the paths are, it's not, animals aren't involved, but it's, it's hard when it's not clean and it's very cluttered and there's been hoarding taking place.
Right.
It's Julie again.
Thank
Suzanne,
you.
that's a great question. And if in a non-hoarding situation, if we had a referral from the police department when we were open pre-COVID, if somebody, the social worker would speak with the police officer, and still does speak with the officer in advance of contact, generally, of unless we know the client, of before they would go over to visit. So, right now is different because of COVID, but anybody who doesn't feel safe going in alone could bring another social worker or ask for an escort for that. When we get to Eileen Gombos, when she's been here the longest, so she could probably speak to that a little more if that's happened or if there's been a need. But I don't think any of us would expect to go blindly into a house without having more information.
Right, of course. Thank you so much.
Sure. Any more questions for Amy?
No, thank you, Amy. That was great.
Great. Allison, you want to go next?
Sure. So I was going to talk about a family that came to us about 2 years ago. It was a single mom with her 2 daughters. One was, like preschool, elementary, and one was in middle school. And she had left her partner after domestic violence situation and moved to an apartment in Fairfield with her girls. And so was really looking for direction. She needed help financially because she couldn't work just right after the domestic violence. She didn't have childcare in town. And she, they were all a little traumatized and needed to get their bearings. And she also needed counseling for herself and the girls. So we connected them with the Center for Family Justice, which is a great agency in Bridgeport, and they took over a lot of the domestic violence counseling and legal advising. And I also helped them apply for food stamps and the state temporary assistance, cash assistance. We've helped over the years with utilities and also holiday gifts for the girls, like gift cards, as well as actual gifts, and summer camp scholarships for the girls. And I worked closely with the social worker in Fairfield Public Schools to transition the middle schooler to, suddenly being in a new school and a new peers and teachers and everything. And then when COVID hit, they were struggling a lot. The mom and I had just sort of started talking about job search resources and employment resources, and then COVID hit and the girls were home and they really were struggling with virtual learning and entertaining the younger one while the older one was trying to do her work online, which was very hard for her. So the mom ended up joining my weekly parenting group, which was very helpful for her to talk to, because obviously that was a very common situation for parents at that time. And, managing the mental health of the 3 of them and balancing that with COVID safety. And recently we've started back up talking again about employment resources and job search, as well as we did summer camp again this summer and utility, energy assistance again this year. And she's really kind of getting back on her feet, and the girls are adjusting really well to Fairfield. And so they're kind of getting out of a lot of their struggle, but, obviously still in it in other ways.
That's good. Well, something that Allison brought up that's really important is the relationship the social workers have with the school social workers. That's been great, and that's been a wonderful effort to be able to collaborate with them. Any questions for Allison?
Yes, this is George. Allison, I was just curious. You mentioned you referred them to Center for Family Justice, and they assumed a lot of that and the legal issues. Ordinarily, if you get a family that has a legal issue of whatever sort it may be, domestic, family, eviction, whatever, do you have a relationship with a legal aid or legal services organization to whom you refer them?
Not with one in particular, but we have a short list, a group of, if it's domestic violence, I will almost always send them to Center for Family Justice. Right. But if it is another legal issue, then we'll send them to, like you said, either legal aid or Connecticut Legal Services usually, or we'll give them both numbers, and it's good for them to try to call on their own and kind of encourage them to take that step themselves and start that process.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Anybody else? Okay,
Thank you, Allison. That was great.
All right, so on to Eileen. Eileen is our most seasoned social worker, so we look to her for a lot of guidance. You're on, Eileen.
Great. Well, thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to join everybody this afternoon. Similar to, I think, what was mentioned earlier, there's sort of no days alike in social services. There's a lot of variety, and what brings families and individuals to our department really can vary day by day. But we do a lot of advocacy for families and individuals and seniors with different resources, including local and state and federal systems, such as Department of Social Services, Department of Labor, Social Security, Veterans Administration, linking families with behavioral health resources, including grief and loss counseling. The case I was going to briefly highlight was prior to the pandemic, when we were seeing families in the office, which seems like a really long time ago, and it's so different doing the work now. But, you know, I think it's the resilience of the families and our my coworkers, just how we've tried to continue to support families in town during this, you know, incredibly challenging time. But this case was also a multi-generational family, so grandparents, 2 adult children, who also then had 3 minor children in the home. So it was a referral from the Fairfield Public Schools social worker, which is, you know, as Julie had mentioned, a relationship that we've really been building over this past several years with the social workers in the school, as well as the psychologists and guidance counselors at the high school and middle schools. But at that time, the social worker was able to come with the family to our office. One of the most utilized programs in our department is the Energy Assistance Program that's funded through the State Department of Social Services. And I've always found that's a great way to do an intake with a family to really get a sense of who resides in the household. You get a real sense of their financial situation, which helps determine eligibility for other programs such as SNAP benefits, Husky insurance, and so it gives us an opportunity to do a thorough assessment. And from there, we're able to link them to other resources, such as possibly Operation Fuel to help with electricity, referrals to the food pantry, Operation Hope in town. Our department is fortunate to receive funding from the Salvation Army, so we're able to use those funds for different needs the family might have, such as rental assistance or other utility assistance. So that's just kind of an overall sense. And then with this particular family, because there were such varied ages, there's so many varied needs of each member of the household. So the grandparents were on Medicare. They had an adult child, but, you know, adult with a disability. So that individual was connected with the State Department of Developmental Services. One of their grandchildren received special education services, so we linked them with advocacy resources to help with the IEP process and PPT process through the school system. So that's just sort of an overview, and then a lot of the other great programs that we're able to offer within our office, including campership assistance, holiday assistance, and we just remain as a resource to them as different needs arise. And that's just kind of an overview.
Wow, great. Thanks, Eileen.
Sure. That was great.
Yeah, any questions for Eileen?
It's George. I don't have a question. I just wanted to remind everyone on the commission that there are opportunities to support a number of these programs, camperships, holiday gift cards, through financial donations that we become aware of at the appropriate times, and to support the Salvation Army, which helps us by ringing their bells at the holiday time, which we've done in the past. So there are opportunities to give back in that way.
Thanks, George.
So true.
This is Loretta. Thanks, George, for that reminder. And thank you, all of you, for your presentations and sharing the work that you do, which is so important. So appreciate that. I'd love to hear a little bit more about mental health services, and when you have families, whether adults or children, who are in need of mental health services, what your experience is on individuals who do not have health insurance, and what resources, where you make those referrals, whether or not they do have coverage, where those referrals are made, and what that relationship in terms of making referrals.
Mm-hmm. We do refer a lot to the hub, based in Norwalk. That's a kind of a clearinghouse for all those services, but also Fairfield Counseling, Positive Directions, LifeBridge, the Child Guidance, Family and Children's, and most have
the regular
sliding scale. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And are there many families that you're seeing who do not have health insurance?
I think that there are people that we help to assess whether or not they can get on Husky and help them with those applications. Do any of the three of you see very many families without any insurance?
We do have a few families that I can think of, and in those situations we'll refer as well to the community health centers, such as Optimus or Southwest, Bay Street in Bridgeport, in Norwalk. We'll also utilize NAMI to connect families to family support as well, and like their family-to-family program if they have a child with a behavioral health concern.
Thanks, Eileen.
Thank you.
This is Laura. I have a question. So Julie mentioned that there were 6 total of you. Is there any specific protocol for who handles what in the department, or is it just who's available at the time?
It's everybody is pretty much a generalist. I think I don't know if they would say out loud, but I think there are some who very much love working with the schools and with families, and others who are more comfortable with seniors. But it really is based on availability and who's in the office when the client contact happens.
Okay, that's what I figured. Yeah. And the other question I have is, if there is a situation with a family where certain individuals are living together, but there's dissension, and let's say there's 3 of them, and 2 of the family members want one of the family members out, is that something that social services would handle?
Not unless there was a danger. That's like a bad roommate situation,
Yeah.
It's hard, that not really. I suppose if somebody needed assistance moving out and didn't have the funds to do it, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Have any of you social workers ever seen that or felt like we would get involved in that? I would say no, but
No, this is Amy. I have not seen it. I've seen, situations similar to that, but there's always some other complication in terms of who is on the lease or who owns the home, and who's more vulnerable type of thing.
Mhm. So if it wouldn't go to your department, where would something like that go?
But it's a private situation, so if somebody, if if there was a danger to somebody in the home, that would be a police, or if it was a senior or a child, a referral to one of the emergency services. But we don't provide mediation for that. And if it's not public, if it's public housing, then I'm sure the housing authority would probably attempt to intervene. But again, it's a private situation.
Okay, so probably a lawyer.
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
okay.
Probably legal services.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, legal services, George, you think?
Yes, it's a legal fight.
Okay.
Probably ultimately, if there are no other complicating factors, it's a legal issue. They would have to be referred to legal services.
Okay, thank you. Because I do know of a situation, and I really didn't know where to refer it. So that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
And
any
also,
other questions? Oh, sorry.
Yes, it's Suzanne, Julie. I know we discussed the topic of addiction and substance abuse in other meetings, and I wasn't sure. We were going to circle back and discuss whether or not that was a social worker situation, or is that under the auspices of the Department of Health, or maybe both. But do you deal with addiction and substance abuse cases?
Certainly there are clients who do have addictions, but we do not do clinical work. So we would refer to them to get their, right. I mean, we can certainly help with, basic needs or emergency needs like that. But, we would do work with the police department and mobile crisis, that kind of thing. But we don't provide clinical services.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Sure. All right. I think we can let these social workers go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So appreciate the actual case studies that you all deal with, because that only touches the surface of a day's work. So thank you very much for that. And I think this was helpful, especially for our new members who weren't really familiar probably with the way the department is structured and who the resources are. So I wrote down all of the corresponding resources too, because we've been talking about maybe learning more about those corresponding resources that you all work with. So thank you for that as well.
It's a great idea. All right, thanks, ladies. Thanks for coming on. You can sign off or stay on. It's up to you.
Thank you so much for having us.
You all in person.
Yeah,
thank you for coming.
Looking forward to it. Bye.
Thanks, you guys.
Bye.
See ya.
Oh, Julie, that was great. Thank you so much for facilitating that. I know it's past their hours of work, so
how lucky are we?
To give us their time. I know, really.
I know they are
wonderful.
Such a, without knowing, you don't know. So that's wonderful.
Yeah. Thanks for indulging us.
Okay, so on to old business. Many of you were emailed, or everybody was emailed the April minutes. I don't know if you had a minute to take a look at them. If you want to take a second, we need to approve those minutes and have a motion to approve, please.
I'll make the motion, Madam Chairman. It's Suzanne Testani to approve.
And I second the motion, Linda DiLorenzo.
Thank you. Excellently written. Thank you, Sheila. Appreciate that. Okay, so Board of Health, Carolyn.
What?
Do we need to vote in favor?
You need to vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we have to vote in favor to pass them. I'm sorry. Yes, all in favor to pass the minutes.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Discussion? Comment? Thank you. I'm sorry about that. Carolyn.
Yes.
Board of Health.
In terms of seniors, there's really not anything that's pertinent to us, but the town changed on the 19th, and they're taking the lead from the state, and businesses can decide on their own. So my suggestion is don't go without your mask, because you just never know. Like the town buildings still need a mask. The only other thing is he's still working with the high schools and the other schools, and it was really interesting how to deal with recess, because people have all kinds of ideas as to what they want to do. But in other words, basically all they're doing is just going by whatever the state says at this point in time. That's really all I can tell you.
Okay.
And so basically the state is saying each business operates on their own guidance.
It sounds like it, yeah. But specifically there are certain businesses we know that you look on the door and they'll say, wear a mask. And it's still the mask still works for a lot of public places, the station, the railroad stations, et cetera, nursing homes, things like that. It's still, the mask is still warranted. But businesses can decide on their own. I was at ShopRite earlier, and it said you could do it on your own, or another one said a mask must be worn. So that's why I'm suggesting that no matter what, you take a mask with you. And you can always put it in your pocket or someplace if you don't need it. But that's really it. That's all I can say at this point.
Okay, so no other guidance regarding
No.
how they're going to proceed. Well, thank you for that report,
No.
Carolyn.
Well, I
Anybody
wish
have
I
any
could
questions?
say something exciting or revolutionary, but I can't.
It's exciting to
Whatever.
get where we are right now with it's optional based on the
Well,
business,
that's
so
true,
that's a good
too.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
Right.
Anybody have any
Let me
questions?
add a postscript that to what Carolyn said, that obviously it's probably still a good idea to wear a mask wherever, but particularly if you've not been vaccinated. Carolyn's presentation assumed that everyone was vaccinated, and that may not be true. But so if you haven't been vaccinated,
George,
by all means, wear a mask.
You're right, but that's got to have to be a personal option. You either got to be honest or not, and how do we deal with that?
Right,
Yeah.
but it's honesty because it's a requirement for non-vaccinated.
Right. So that's why I'm wearing.
No, I understand.
A good idea. Yep. Thanks, Carolyn.
Okay, that's
Anyone
it.
else? All right. Excellent. Loretta J., Committee for People with Disabilities, is ready to get us to vote.
So before we vote, I'll give a little update as our old business. So we met this month, and let's see, a couple of things. We have been discussing developing a resource directory of resources for people who have disabilities, whether it's services locally in town or elsewhere in the state, both private and public. We decided to table that for once the commission is established. So that's the foundation work is there, but we're going to hold off a little bit on that. The town is putting out to bid a new website, and we're going to be able to work within those parameters once that's established. We have wonderful, exciting news, though. This is the biggie, and that is that we received a green light for the charge to have the commission established. So the draft has been distributed to everybody, the final draft to review. That was distributed a few weeks ago, so hopefully everyone had a chance to review that. It has been reviewed by the town attorney, Jim Baldwin, and the Human Services Commission's Committee on People with Disabilities voted last week in favor of it. So, Madam Chair, may I brudge into the next section of new business on the agenda and sort of blend the two together?
Hear and consider. Is
Thank
that the
you.
one?
Yes.
Please do.
So sort of
yes.
It's interrelated.
Yes.
So the committee voted in favor of our draft charge, and I'd love to tell everyone about it and summarize it, and hopefully you've had a chance to review it and answer any questions and discuss it. And if all in favor, we could even vote upon it. The sequence of events that would happen after the committee voted in favor last week, if our commission votes in favor as well, it would then go before the Selectmen for their consideration. And then if the Selectmen vote in favor of having the commission, it would move forward on a 3-year temporary state. I can. Any questions before I go on?
This is Laura. I just want to say, Loretta, that I am just in awe of the time and the talent you've put into this effort. It's just incredible where we have come, and the fact that we're here as a commission looking at this draft to vote on today. I just want to commend you and your committee on all the time and work you've put into this, and Julie's assistance, of course. We wouldn't be able to even get here without you, Julie. And I just want to thank you both very much and your committee. So congratulations.
Thank you, Laura. The committee's terrific. Julie's amazing. And we must recognize Chris Burbank, who was the chair until she had to move out of town, or moved out of town a year ago. But Chris was really the force behind all of this, and I just continued in her path that she laid out. So you're right. This is a lot of work and a lot of people put in to make it come together. And I'd like to thank all of you, as well as and Julie and Chris, for all the work to get us here.
Very exciting.
Okay.
Loretta, it's Suzanne Castani. I was just wondering, just a quick question. Once the Board of Selectmen, when it gets to their table to vote on it, you mentioned a minute ago that it would be on a 3-year temporary basis. Can you explain that, why it would be temporary?
Sure, I'd be happy to. That's part of the charge. It spells out in there as well. But actually, does it spell out in here? So the idea is that the charge that the commission would be for 3 years, and during those 3 years, if it is found that it is necessary, then it can be renewed. But it's to begin with, it's a provisional 3-year commission, and then would be reconsidered at that time.
Okay.
And that seems fair. You know, if we're doing good work and we're demonstrating that there is a need for this commission, then we would continue. And if we don't demonstrate a need, then it would not be. That seemed like a fair expectation. And each commissioner's term for the first session would be for 3 years.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you so much.
Sure. Any other questions before I go on and summarize the different aspects?
All yours, Loretta.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so to start with, it's called the Fairfield Commission on Disabilities, and by discussion of the committee, the disabilities is written with a lowercase d and a capital A. So lowercase DIS and then capital A, abilities. And that was a discussion and decision to really focus on the ableness of people with disabilities, and really recognizing that and calling attention to it, even subtly in its name. The mission is to ensure that Fairfield is a welcoming community where people with disabilities can lead inclusive and fulfilling lives, participating and contributing as active members of our town. Really to make sure that we are here and inclusive and doing all that we can to make our community inclusive. The membership would be 7 appointed commissioners by the Selectmen, and there would also be ex officio members. They would include the first Selectwoman, the ADA compliance officer, the director of human resources, and the director of special education. The commission would be housed with human services, so the director of human services, Julie, would be the staff member associated with the commissioner. And thank you, Julie, for your passion for the commission and wanting to and willingness to continue working with us. Okay, so I had already mentioned that each term would be for 3 years. The duties of the commission would really be to promote the inclusion and integration of people with disabilities and activities, services, employment opportunities in the community, It would be to facilitate information and referrals and information and technical assistance to people and organizations and town officials to make recommendations. It would not be a complaint board or an advocacy board where people would come on board and make complaints, but really to facilitate information, to identify and resolve problems and make recommendations that address barriers impacting people with disabilities. We want to increase awareness of issues that affect people with disabilities, and by fostering and promoting community dialogue and partnerships. And we really want to engage people with disabilities and their families and encourage them to participate in community activities in town government and planning. Let's see. Then the other basics are the officers would be an elected chair and a secretary. We would be following the commission will be following the town charter and the Freedom of Information Act, and meetings will be held monthly. More frequent meetings can be called by the chair for special situations. Quorum is a majority of the appointed members, so 4 people would make a quorum, and decisions are made by a majority of those present. So if a quorum is 4 people and 1 person is absent, then 3 people can make a decision. It's a pretty straightforward charge. It's not even 1.5 pages long, which is nice to keep it tight. Okay. Any questions?
Great job.
Yeah, great job.
Wow.
Really
Brought
good.
it a lot of work. Anything
that
you may
was a
need
lot
to
of
do,
work. Congratulations. That's amazing. Good for you and good for the town.
And this is Laura. I just want to say I don't really understand the provisional piece, but I'll go along with you, Loretta. I think it's a necessary entity to the town based on the research that's been done against other towns and how effective this commission is. So I hope that the provision goes away.
Right. That's
Thank you.
exactly
And
how
why?
I'm feeling. Yeah, that's why I asked the question.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was a good question, Suzanne.
Loretta, I have one question.
Yes, George.
It's George. And if you alluded to it when you were speaking about the provisional status, I apologize. You have 7 commission members, all of whom presumably will be elected, nominated and elected by the Board of Selectmen when the commission is formally established.
Yes.
If that's
Right.
the case, you will then have 7 commission members whose terms expire all at the same time.
Yes.
In 3 years.
That would be true. And
is there
then,
a way of
that
staggering them or phasing them in or doing something to avoid that?
Well, because it is provisional at this time, there was language that was removed because it was provisional, and so everyone would remain as a full 3-year term. And then at that time, if and when, presuming that it is renewed in 3 years, we would have to create a staggering system.
Okay, that's fine, as long as that's on the radar screen.
Yeah, and it certainly is something that was thought of and thought through, but because it's provisional, then it's kind of catch-22 there.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else have questions? Excellent. Loretta, again, congratulations. I think our commission is ready to address your request for a vote.
Okay. Shall I put forward
happy to make the motion if you... Loretta, do you want to make it?
Sure, I'll be happy to. Put forward a motion to vote in favor of the charge for the Commission on Disabilities.
I second that, Linda.
The motion. No, we all second.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all very much. It's very exciting.
Excellent, Loretta. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for supporting Loretta and this incredible initiative that is so necessary.
We will send out a notice to everybody when we will be before the Board of Selectmen, and we ask all of you to attend and participate to show support that we are behind this, because it would be really nice for them to see and for the town to see that the Human Services Commission stands behind the charge and the formation of the commission. So we'll let you know when that happens.
That'd be great. Great idea. Please highlight that in the email so that we see it. I think that's very important.
Thank you.
All right. So if I can just back up to old business, I just want to bring to everyone's attention that Herb did send us the FSA flyer earlier. So if anybody has any questions, if you did have a minute to look that over. Herb, are you on this call by any chance? Okay. So I did want to let you know that he did send that to everybody. Of course, they're working hard. Fairfield Senior Advocates, he sent us an update, and we really appreciate that he did that in time for our meeting today. So thank you, Herb. Anybody have any questions on that? Okay. Excellent. So on to new business. Loretta covered, of course, the commission, and our next is the Human Services Commission research. So Julie and I actually had a conversation prior to this meeting, which was great. I always so appreciate her time and insight. And we thought it might be interesting to have each commission member take 5, I guess what we call human services agencies across Connecticut, and just look at their agenda and their minutes over the last, let's say, 12 months, and just do an assessment of how they conduct their commissions, what subjects they address, what initiatives they put forward, kind of like a self-study of each, so that we could come back as commission members and just do a report on some of the comparisons. Maybe there's things we're missing, maybe there's things that we're doing that they're not, which we can, of course, commend ourselves on. But we just thought that it would be an interesting self-study to have each commission member take 5 different human service commissions across the state of Connecticut. And I know that's a big job to go out and do the research, so I am offering, as the chair, to send out a follow-up email to all of you with the different areas and the commissions. And if it's okay with you, I'll just appoint a commission member to 5 rather than have you all have to go out and pick them, because there are many. And I just think it would be an interesting exercise, and certainly one I'd like to have a discussion on. If anybody has anything, to add or suggest, recommend. But Julie and I thought that this would be a really interesting study, particularly since we had kind of planned to have a retreat and probably talk a little bit about this, this kind of comparison, and are we addressing everything that we want to as commission members. I know many of us feel that sometimes we were just reported to, and others feel that, maybe we should be more involved in certain areas. So it would be a good idea kind of to just see how others operate. What do you all think of it?
Well, Madam
Does
Chair,
everybody have the time? I have time because I'm an old lady, but does other people have time because they're working and they have families?
I understand. No problem, Carolyn.
I don't consider myself an old lady. It's Linda. I have time because I'm retired. It's actually a hard thing to do, but the way you did it, Laura, makes sense, so that we're not duplicating, an assignment.
I was just going to say that. How do we choose the communities? And also, we wouldn't want to be stepping on each other's toes and each other
right. You don't want to duplicate
the same townships. Yeah.
And all of the information is online. Right.
And
what
Carol,
the criteria?
I so understand everybody's time commitments and, lives and everything. So don't make it feel like it has to be done within, a week's time. I will also give you a time frame when we report back. It's not a pressured project. It's just something we thought could be helpful for all of us. So I don't want you feeling pressure.
Right. It's free. All the information is online. So it's just a matter of taking a look at the agendas and the minutes. Maybe it could be like a report back in September kind of thing.
I think
exactly.
I need to go. This is Mary Ellen. I need to go. But I think it's a great idea if you give me more time, because I'm one of those people that are working 50 or 60 hours a week right now. So I do need a little bit more lead time, but I think it's a great idea. And with that, I have another meeting I need to go to that started at 5, so I apologize. I need to hang up.
Mary Ellen, thank you so much for joining, and I appreciate that. And believe me, if you find you're overloaded, we will certainly take on any help that you need. So please, do what you do well.
The pandemic's over, I'm all yours, you guys. So, but anyway, I need to go. So thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Well, great. I'm glad everybody's positive about it. I feel really good, Julie.
Yeah,
and we'll work together, and we'll put that list together. Yes, George.
One quick thing. I think it's a good idea. I think what needs to be done, assuming we are going to be contacting other human services departments and heads, in addition to looking at their websites, is that you and Julie draft a letter of introduction, as it were, that we can provide to each of these departments so that we have a uniform message that explains what we're doing and why we're doing it and how they might be able to help in terms of just giving us an idea.
George, and I appreciate that, but I don't think we want to get that far into it.
Yeah.
In other words, we're not here to like really dive into their activities. We just felt that if, as commission members and as our minutes and agenda are posted monthly, that we could just go on and take a look and make notes.
If we're just looking online?
Yeah, we're not talking to anybody. Right.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Take it back. I'm sorry.
No
problem. Linda, I have
but George, that was a great idea.
It was. It was
great,
George. I think it's a great idea. Laura, you had said looking at...
I think is the expression. So, okay.
He's so diplomatic.
Right. Okay, Linda, go ahead. What do you got, Linda?
Okay. I think it's a great idea, and to review the agenda in minutes to get ideas. But you had said in the past year has been a pandemic. Do you think we're going to get a lot out of it by just doing this past year?
That's
I'm sure
a good
their
point,
agenda and
Linda.
their minutes, you know what I mean, because of everything that's going on.
Well, I will say this to you, my friend. I have felt that every single one of these calls that we have had in the last 12 months have been amazing. I understand the value of face-to-face, and sometimes more gets done. I don't know. But I think if anyone were to go and look at our agenda in minutes from the past year through this horrible pandemic and being apart, that a lot has been accomplished on our end. So I would be interested to see if some of these commissions were like maybe taking a hiatus. Maybe they were. That would be interesting to know. So if that's the case, then maybe what we do is look at the previous year after that. But this is not at all to make anybody feel like this is a homework project, because nobody likes homework, I can tell you that.
This is how to get ideas. It's just getting ideas.
Yeah, it's just taking a look and seeing kind of how they operate, what is on their agenda, what is important to them. Maybe we're missing something. Maybe we're, like I said, doing a fantastic job, which I think we are. But you know what? It's a self-study, and nobody please feel pressured. And like I said, members that have the time can step in and help others. It's just really, an opportunity to go on the computer at your leisure, with a glass of wine or whatever, and just check out their agendas and their minutes and just jot down some notes that you find of interest. You don't have to be, really long and that specific. But anything that really pops out to you is what we're looking for, because we want to get better. Everybody wants to do better at what they do. And if this is a way to maybe get there, we'll get there. If not, then we can pat ourselves on the back and say we're doing a great job. So that was good, though, George, because you're right. We don't need to contact anybody. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my suggestion was not relevant.
No, it's a good one to bring up, though, because people, I'm sure, were thinking that in the back of their mind, and we don't want anyone to feel like that. And, Julie, maybe you want to add something to all this.
No, I think, what was great about the conversation with Laura was that, over the course of the last few months, people had come in with great ideas for speakers and also great ideas for areas that they wanted to discuss or were interested in. And this is a great way to see if there's a path forward for some of those and to see what other things may be out there. I think it should, like Laura said, it's not a heavy homework thing. It's just more taking a look at. And we'll be doing it too, so it'll be interesting.
Yeah. I think sometimes it's the best teacher are the ones that are right beside us, and I think it's a great exercise. And thank you, Julie, for helping me get there. And if anybody has any questions, once you receive the information from me, I am available to speak with you at any time, and we'll go through it. So not to worry, but I think I'm looking forward to it, and I hope you all are too.
Absolutely.
So I will be in touch within the week with that list and who you will be assigned to.
Good.
Anybody else have any questions? Awesome. One thing I thought, too, I'm looking back at my notes, Julie, it might be nice to have a note sent to Chris Burbank from our commission, thanking her for being our leader in this effort, since we did just pass it. I don't know, or should we just wait until it's official?
That's a lovely idea, Laura.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Julie. Go ahead.
No, you go. You're good.
I have been in communication with her, so she's aware, but I think that it would be a lovely, perhaps either now or once it's official, for the commission to send her something as a group. That would be really nice.
Okay. I'll let you handle that, Loretta. Maybe just make a note, and we'll figure it out along the way. But I'm just thinking about what an amazing woman she is, and for, her insight was just incredible. So that's great. Okay, so we've got the Connecticut Senior Center Research. Julie, you got to help me.
Right. So we were talking about, this is something we just want to see if there's interest in, maybe having a small task-oriented short-term subcommittee to look at kind of some best practices of senior centers around the lunch program and also, I think, Laura, also around membership fees.
Okay, got it.
Right.
Yep. So we did discuss this. I'm sorry. Yep.
No, that's okay. That's okay, because we're trying to figure out. I think really we were focused on the membership fees, right, Laura?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Julie had mentioned that some senior centers do charge membership fees. And maybe, I don't know if that will be reflected in agendas and minutes as we go and do that research that we just talked about. But that would be one thing to look for, right, Julie?
Right, but on each website, there's 169 senior centers in towns, and each website will have a membership tab for a senior center, not on a commission. But would also, so it's not necessarily a phone call again, but it's kind of just getting a sense of who charges what. Do they charge their residents? Do they charge their out of town residents? Do they charge both? Because we're trying to assess whether or not that's something we should introduce. And that's something I could use other eyes on, just in conversation on, to try to figure out and advise the department going forward. So there's not a rush on it. We would not do that this year, but I would love to be able to just get a sense of towns in the state. It's easy enough to get the ones in the local SWACA area because I meet with them regularly, and I do have those. And I have an outdated database of membership fees, but a lot has changed since COVID. So it would be more out of the SWACA area. That we've got, and I'm happy to put that together for you. But it would be it would probably be a committee looking at them. I mean, we could divvy it up again like Laura just did with the commissions, or we could just have 2 or 3 people on it, bang it out in a month, and then report back the next month.
Mm-hmm.
I would be interested in doing that.
Would it make sense,
great.
Julie, maybe when we send out the list to each commission member to just point out this is a commission that we're interested in knowing if they charge their seniors a membership fee?
Yeah, but it's hard. But commissions won't necessarily have that stated anywhere. So, I don't want it. It doesn't have to be like a phone call to, it doesn't have to be a phone call to the senior centers, because most have websites that would say membership.
It would
and
say
tell
it,
you
right?
the fee.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And other towns.
But while they're going into the commission tab, could they just move over to the senior center tab? I guess is what
definitely.
I'm asking.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Right.
So we can kind of combine the effort.
Mm-hmm. We could,
Julie,
or have
George.
Yeah, I mean, in our town, there's a linkage between Human Services Commission and Senior Center, but that may not necessarily be the case. It may be a totally separate web page, which is fine. People can do that. That's not a big deal. The only thing I wanted to mention, Julie, is that obviously when you ultimately do comparisons, it's important to know whether they charge a fee for membership and then what they charge or don't charge for individual services, because that may
affect a different area.
Decision.
That's a different area, George. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, but if they're charging nothing for membership, but a lot of fees for coming in to go to a lecture or have lunch or do whatever, play pickleball, that influences what they may do for membership. So you need to make sure we're comparing apples and apples.
Yes, and you're definitely right about that. There's we don't charge anything for very many things here. And that's what I'm trying to to balance. But you're right. Some memberships, some centers charge, like Stanford, for instance, charges $50 no matter who you are, and they also charge for programs. We're limited with the lunch program how much we can ask for in donations. So that's we can't charge for that per se because we're part of that Older Americans Act. But you're right. There are definitely. I'm not averse to having a membership fee and charging for activities as well, because that's
right. No, I'm not averse to anything. I'm just saying that when we gather the information, we should gather more than if we can. Is there a membership fee?
Julie, are you only looking? It's Suzanne. Are you only looking at the charge component, or are you also looking at things like how old a mature adult should be that can join the center? That's another big topic. 55, 60, 62, I know in Greenwich, right before I retired, we raised the age to 62 from 55.
Right.
So
and right now
it had been
we are
55
50.
for years.
Right. That's not my concern right now. It's more that, and with respect to how much we do here, we provide a lot for no charging. So the age group doesn't. I do get what you're saying. I know that. Trumbull
I just wondered if that was
55.
an area you were looking at.
Yeah,
right.
Not yet.
Julie, it's Linda. Isn't there a statewide organization of senior center directors?
Yes, there is.
Mm-hmm.
That's
and
that
do
CAF
they have
group.
anything in their database? I mean, that's statewide. I mean, I know Southwest, like you said. I'm sure you know most of that.
Mm-hmm. Well,
are they
Linda,
helpful
they
in any way, or do they keep a database on anything like that?
They don't have a database per se, but I mean, it's easy enough for me to throw the question out. We have biweekly phone calls, Zoom calls with that group. It's easy enough to throw out a question and get the membership fees information back, but part of it is having people see. I feel like a committee would be a better way to go, like a small group or having commissioners look into it, just because there's nuances to it. It's not just the fee. You want to see the website. You want to see what they're offering. And I
was just wondering, as an organization, if they had anything. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, periodically they will send it out, but
That sounds like the best way to go, Julie. I agree now. We did talk about that, and I think anybody who would be interested in that investigative research, we would form an ad hoc committee. So anybody right now on this call that would like to get involved in that?
Sure, I would love to, Laura. Suzanne Testani. Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
Okay, so
right.
Suzanne, George. Did anybody else say something?
And, we could do this, I could send you the links that I have to websites, and we could do a lot of this, by email, and then maybe meet in September and compare notes, and I'll put up a spreadsheet, and then we can present to the group.
Oh, that sounds great. Are two people enough, though? That seems like an awful lot of information. Could we maybe put it out in our follow-up notes to this meeting and see maybe there's another commissioner that would be interested in helping?
And I know Mary Ellen had to leave. She might want to do it,
Mm-hmm.
Yep. She sounds busy, though.
I know.
Thanks, everybody. That sounds great.
If it's okay, Julie, I'll just send out a quick email just summarizing what we talked about and see if there's maybe another commissioner that might be interested before we move forward. Okay, good.
Sounds gret.
Thank you, Suzanne and George. That's fabulous. Appreciate it very much. Okay, so on to our department update. Julie.
Okay, well, you know all about social services now, so I won't go there. But I wanted to just give you an update on the senior center side. We have hired a new activities coordinator who starts next week. Her name is Jennifer Henry. I'm very much looking forward to having her on board. She will work beautifully with Brenda Steele, the senior center director. So this is going to be a great way to go into our reopening, and we need all hands on deck. So her timing is perfect. We are working on the reopening guidelines for opening the building up again this summer. We're hoping for mid-July. What it's going to look like is mid-July. I don't have a definitive date yet. We are still trying to nail that down, and I just want to make sure we have it all ready before we release it, and I need to run it by my boss. I need to have a conversation with Brenda about it so that we're all on the same page. So what we're going to do is open very slowly. The new abundance of caution is visiting with a purpose. So the seniors will need to sign up for an activity, come for that activity, go through a screening. We're not taking temperatures, but we have a checklist that they have to sign that says they're symptom-free. We cannot ask anybody if they're vaccinated. Right at this point, everybody must wear a mask in the building. So they'll walk in the front door. They'll go to whatever program they're going to. If it's exercise, it's an hour. They go, they leave. If it's crafts, they'll go for probably an hour and a half or 2 hours, and then they'll leave. Pickleball, same thing. So it's very, very slow. But it'll help us to try to figure out our online registration system and to make sure that, we should be registering people for every program. We should know who is in the building when the building is open. So this is allowing us to acclimate people to the registration process and also to make sure we have all our systems in place for when we are open. There'll be no food, so no lunch, no coffee, no donuts. And that's going to be hard because we are so food-based. Yeah. We're going to send home a reopening packet that will have the schedule of regular activities, an acknowledgement that they've read the reopening packet and understand that they'll need to follow it. It will break down each class or type of class and what's expected and what we're expecting in terms of registration and time in the building. Rooms are not going to be filled to capacity. We're going to limit the size of things. So it's going to be interesting. It's not going to be awful, but it's going to be challenging. And every single day there's a new protocol that's either put up or taken down. So all of this could change.
Right. It's very true.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is Laura, Julie. Hi. How long do you think the, hesitation to fully open will last?
Well, the seniors are considered, even though things are opening up, are still considered a vulnerable population, and that's why we are going so slowly. So what we're hoping is that we get through, July and August, and then September things look normal, and we're able to offer things as scheduled as they were scheduled before.
Good.
And not all seniors are comfortable coming back yet. And we've done a survey. We have it on. It's online. It'll be in the First Selectwoman's update this week. It's on our website. It's in our newsletter. Assessing comfort level, and people aren't 100% comfortable. They're kind of ready to come back. We're still doing our weekly activities outside, which have been well attended and a lot of fun. But aside from a few activities like a pickleball or the craft ladies, people are good about taking it a little bit slow. So we're kind of following their lead on that.
Are you going to reopen pickleball?
Yes, on a modified schedule, modified sizes. Yeah.
Because I heard that there is for anybody who wants pickleball, there are 4 courts, I guess, that are open in Fairfield.
On Tunx's Hill. Yeah.
Right. For anybody that wants to play. Yep.
And they do go there. We had a meeting with pickleball today and went over. It just made sure we understood with scheduling what they were looking for, and also how many people we could safely have. It's there's a lot of nuances that we really weren't ready for, and in terms of the spacing, the mask wearing in the building, pickleball with a mask is going to be challenging until that is dropped.
Yeah.
Oh, trust me, I spun on a bike for almost a year with a mask.
Oh.
It's very challenging.
Yeah.
It's wonderful being able to go to the edge and not wear a mask, but I feel almost naked because I don't have one on.
Right.
Yeah, it's like I lost my pants
that first
or something.
time, right?
Right.
Yeah,
so weird.
Yeah. Okay. What else,
So
Julie?
that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it.
So July. So it looks like we're all going to be on the phone still, right, through June.
As of today.
And then maybe meet actually in July. Is that what we're looking at? Maybe.
Maybe that's a decision. So we'll change when the town says it's okay.
Okay. No problem. Because just everybody make a note. Generally, we take the month of August off.
Right.
So we will meet again in June and July, and then month of August off, and reconvene in September.
Perfect.
And we'll wait to hear then from you, Julie.
That sounds great.
Right.
Okay. Any other business, anybody? Again, jam-packed hour and 20 minutes. It's an hour, almost and a half. Yeah. So thank you all for your time. This has been so enriching, hearing about social services, passing this amazing new commission initiative, and all the good stuff that you put forward, Julie, and we thank you and your staff. And everybody, thank you for your time. If someone would like to make a motion to adjourn our meeting.
I'll make that motion, Madam Chairman. Suzanne?
This is Loretta.
Second, Carolyn.
Thank you, Loretta. Carolyn? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Thank you again, everyone.
Thanks,
and
everyone.
Sheila,
Bye-bye.
to you for taking our minutes. Everybody
Thanks,
have a great night.
See you.
Bye-bye. Have a nice holiday.
Oh, yes. Happy Memorial Day. Go to the parade.
Yay.